morning, everyone. Welcome to the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary. Saying hi to Liddy in the chat, M Baller in the chat, Farzad is in here. Y'all probably want to know how we did on the recap screen before we bring in the stars of the show. It's another good day. That's 3 in a row for us. 5-2, 5-2, and now 4-2. I hit my golf bet. I will say, though, one of them is still pending, the Wyndham Clark 3-ball, the plus money 3-ball. So we're going to have to wait for round 1 to finish. I'm trailing by 2 strokes there, but we still got 9 holes to play. Mike McClure hits his. Larry goes 1 for 2. We hit the SportsLine pick very easily. Boston, actually not very easily. Golden State kind of got back into that one, but that one was pretty much coasting the whole way. Ladies and gentlemen, though, we got to turn the page. It's been a very good week of picks, but we're not really as interested in picks as we are BPE Friday. Oh, here we go. Yeah, that's what I expected from Mike McClure. Danny Brasco. We got Buckets, and we've got Chip Patterson. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Friday. Chip doesn't know this, or he might not know this. We've already stolen 2 of his picks from SportsLine earlier in the week. He's already gone 2-0, playing with house money this week. Chip Patterson, can you hit us with a chip me up?
Good morning, Sia. Good morning, Buckets. Good morning, Danny. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Ben. Good morning, Early Edge fam. Oh, baby. Look at Sia right there. Just glug, putting that gas in my tank to just get me rip-roared, ready to go into that top gear. We got a couple top gear college basketball picks fired up, wearing my Carolina Hurricanes, because we got Seth Jarvis, we got Sebastian Aho, we got Jacob Slavin. Oh, just a couple Canes out here in the semifinals of the men's Olympic hockey. Cannot wait. Let's go.
Let's go. And by the way, there's a mistake on the recap screen, and it's pretty much all my fault. It looks like Oberg actually beat Ben Griffin, and I had told Ben that he lost that one. So we weren't 4-2. We were 5-1. That's on me, not on Ben. Ben, maybe we'll update it later on in the show, but we go 5-2, 5-2, and then 5-1. Sorry, Taft. I apologize. Love that you hit that one too. Mike McClure, speaking of golf, it's an interesting day yesterday. Round 1 did not finish. How you feeling going in today? And do we have another golf pick for BPE Friday?
Another golf pick here today, Sia. Feeling good about the golf tournament. You and I both on one Rory McIlroy. I was hoping for that bogey-free round, but still a great performance from Rory. And as we talked about on the show yesterday, we did need a little Tommy magic on 17, and we got it. But the correlation in that group, every single player in that group cashed their round score under in very difficult conditions. Just not going to dive too deep into it, but we'll tell you that there are still little edges in PGA betting based off correlated playing partners.
And honestly, I think when people were listening to that analysis, Mike, that you were giving out yesterday, I'm sure a lot of them were like, yeah, I'm not so sure about that. But it just absolutely ended up ringing true with that group in particular. Yeah, Liddy says 5-1 is better than 4-2. My bad, everybody. Here's the updated recap screen. How about this? Just 1x. Larry missed the Desmond Bain one. He was scoreless in the first half, 17 points in the second half. So you can make the argument that was still a pretty good bet. 5-1 we will take every single time. So apologies there. That one on my fault. Farzad says I put $144 on Jacob Bridgman. Too soon, Farzad. Too soon. Buckets, how we doing today?
I'm a little confused. I need some advice from either you, Sia, or you, Chip, or just anyone here. I just keep hearing people say that we're in a boring part of sports right now, a dead part of the sports season. There's nothing to bet on. There's nothing to watch. How do we talk to people that say that? Because I know it's never boring for me, but what do we do there?
Something's going to happen. Okay. You know what's going to happen? It's going to happen in about 8 days. It's going to be a knock. It's going to be a knock at your door. And you're like, oh man, like I'm totally ready for March. You know, like I think I can handle this. And I can tell you that if you don't get yourself ready, if you're not sharpening your samurai sword, then when the fire hose that is March is knocking at your door, you're not going to be ready. Because soon enough, it's just going to be like... And you're not going to be ready. You're just not. Because you've got to put in the work now. You've got to do the work so that when it's in your face, you're ready. You're ready to meet the moment. Boring? Are you kidding me? That is what failure looks like. That is what losing sounds like. Because now is when you do the work.
Brasco, how do you follow that, my friend?
Well, you don't, but UFC is year-round. So if you're ever bored of sports, may I introduce you to MMA? May I introduce you to cage fighting? If you're bored of that, check your pulse, go to the doctor. You may not have one. I'm fired up for UFC Houston this weekend. See, it's a great card.
It is a great card. You're going to have some picks for that. Buckets, I'm going to let you catch your breath because that was amazing. And I'm going to let you give out your picks for BPE Friday.
This sucks. I got to follow that. I said I teed it up, and now I have to follow him up. Yeah. All right. Well, I've got 3 soccer bets today, everyone. So let's get ready for some winners on the pitch. We're going to start in Ligue 1, where we've got Stade Brest taking on Marseille. And this is a fun game because we're getting a very soft line on Marseille at the moment, going with their team total over 1.5 at -120 here. Marseille haven't won in their last 3. I know that's going to scare people off a little bit. The last 3 were Strasbourg, one of the best clubs in France right now, in which they still scored 2. PSG, which, to be fair, PSG killed them. It happens. And then another Paris FC's team that's hard to beat at home. I really like this Marseille attack. I really like what they're doing. And this is a team that, for whatever reason, gets a penalty almost every single game. So you almost get that guaranteed good shot there. But I love Marseille to go to Stade Brest, play against a Brest team that is struggling defensively, good on offense. I think we see a lot of goals in this one. And I am shocked that Marseille team total is ever playable. Second bet, we go to the Dutch Eredivisie, where Fortuna Sittard are taking on Excelsior, a fun name to say and a fun team to bet on because their defense is just #Martin the Guru Green shambolic. They're a terrible defense. Nobody wants to bet on this team. So bet on them specifically for goals, going over 2.5 here at -125. If you look at Sittard's last 7 matches, 5 goals, 4 goals, 4 goals, 3 goals, 3 goals, 4 goals, 7 goals, 5 goals. This team is just an over factory, an over wagon. You want to bet them anytime the over is playable. And again, I'm surprised it's playable. If this was -170, fantastic parlay piece. -125, play it by itself. And then a bet for tomorrow. We've got MLS coming back tomorrow. So another reason why you shouldn't be bored is we've got American soccer, not football, soccer coming back tomorrow afternoon. And we've got the biggest kickoff of the season as LAFC are hosting Inter Miami. So we're going to see Messi in action. We're going to see Son Heung-min in action. We're going to see Dennis Bouanga in action. And we're also going to see LAFC over 1.5 team total cashing at -120. Miami will be good eventually. They've got to get knock up the rust, get back to playing, and they're a team that plays really good at home, not the best on the road. But LAFC has already started playing matches because they're in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, in which we saw them play Real España last week and beat them 6-1. I love LAFC to score goals. I like both teams to score over 2.5, but that team total is too good to ignore for tomorrow afternoon.
All right. 3 picks right there. You love to see it. Let's move on. We got a lot of picks to cover, a lot of questions to answer. I'm sure some soccer questions as well. And Buckets, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're joining me on CBS Sports Network today at 12. Is it you and Martin?
If you'll have us, sure.
We will have you, and we will have you kicking off the show. We got soccer to talk about on that show, NBA, college basketball. I'm trying to remember. There was something else. I don't know if it's UFC or not, and we're going to get to UFC on this show, but there was something else we were it was golf. Of course, my bad. Well, actually, what a nice segue. Maybe I did that on purpose. Probably not. Mike, you've got a golf play. What is it?
Let's go back to a round score. How about Colin Morikawa? I went under his round score here today in round 2, under 69.5 plus 100 even money. It has moved in the last 10 minutes to -110. Would still play it there. I still make this a good number for Colin. And a lot of it is the exact same analysis that we had yesterday with Tommy Fleetwood. It comes down to the playing partners, getting to play with Rory McIlroy and Tommy Fleetwood. It's a perfect pairing for Colin. He obviously got his first win in 870 days last week. And we talked about him a little bit, or at least I talked about him a little bit last week, loving the fact that he had a new putter in the bag and things could only go one direction because he was at rock bottom. He's still the best iron player essentially out there, and that is going to be critical here. I know that we talk about distance a lot. He's just long enough here, and what he lacks there, he makes up with those irons. I just love the playing group for him, and I love the confidence that he has, not only after winning that event, but out there having a solid round yesterday in pretty difficult conditions, really kind of keeping up with Rory McIlroy and Tommy Fleetwood. I just love this setup again for Morikawa. I think that the pricing on these round scores for Colin is priced, kind of where he was over the last year. However, I'm going to make that assumption, then we're going to continue to try to be early on him kind of being back. And if we're right about that, this number should be flirting at -125 to -130. or going to 68.5 around even money. So I think that we're just going to continue to buy on Colin, be early on him being back to being a top 5 player on the PGA Tour, and going under on this round score. For those asking, some of the books do not have these up yet because they haven't completed round 1. Is currently up over on FanDuel, which is where I played it.
I think round 1 is it resumed? It's in progress. So they still have a bit of a way to go. So we might see some of these books waiting for round 2 scores to post, although some might do it before the round 1 even ends. But keep an eye out on that. And if you're in the SportsLine Discord, maybe we can chat as we go. And Mike, you'll be on the network show talking golf as well. Chip, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, so if I don't want you to unveil state secrets here, but I have noticed that round score is a spot where you've been targeting. Does it come down almost to like baseball totals where you're looking at the prices and that's where you're trying? You mentioned that it's like, we're catching in at plus 100, minus 110, should be out at minus 125. Is it those small margins that you're looking at when it comes for the edges on the round score?
Yes, generally those small margins, and I will admit, Chip, I mostly play round scores in round 1 because it's those small margins in pricing relative to each other. So I'll look at where I've profiled golfers ahead of the event.
Right.
And then I'll look at their market pricing on the round scores there and kind of look for discrepancies on where I had them in that spot. But a large portion of why we do it in round 1 also is general speculation on course conditions and weather, because we haven't seen anyone out there. The efficiencies, it gets really tough to bet round scores by round 3, for example. Just because you've got so much real actual data with, in a lot of cases, 100 plus golfers on the course playing. So it's generally early tournament round 1 or early round 2, kind of like this.
Because the whole board is going to be 69.5 to 71.5. And then you're just,
unless you're Scotty Scheffler, then you'll hang 67.5 today.
Right.
But so it's, you're basically, it's like betting totals in baseball to some large degree.
Right, because it's the same small window of actual numbers we're dealing with. That's where it becomes important to find the prices for your value. It's cool. Nice. I'm learning.
And I will say it does look like the conditions today are optimal for players to go a little. We're still going to have a soft course, and the wind doesn't look like it's going to be a factor like it was yesterday, or the rain. So should be really good conditions to get a low score for somebody like Colin Morikawa. So Chip, we still have your college basketball to get to. Obviously, Danny, you're going to go next. We're going to talk some UFC, but I do want to tell everybody about BetMGM promos. BetMGM players will receive a no sweat bet to apply to any bet on college basketball today. And oh, by the way, we've got 2 coming from Chip Patterson. Just place a wager on any college basketball game today or Saturday. And if your bet loses, you will receive bonus bets back. They make it very easy over at BetMGM. Let's look at a sports line pick. Kyle Filipowski. This is from Prop Bet Guy. Kyle Filipowski over 8.5 rebounds at minus 114. That one courtesy again of Prop Bet Guy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get to UFC. We're going to get to college basketball. We're going to get to my golf pick. We got a lot of soccer questions in the chat. A lot to do still on this show right after this message from our partners.
Critics agree Landman is a hit.
We roll the dice one last time.
Men die. Oil companies don't.
We're back on the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary. Brasco, you're always giving legendary takes, and we've got UFC permanently on Paramount Plus. Talk to me about this Saturday night.
Yeah, fight night card in Houston. Whenever they go to Houston, it's a pretty good card. Don't sleep on the fight nights. I keep telling people, just because it doesn't have a number next to its name doesn't mean there's not going to be bangers. I'm really excited for this one. I'm going to kick it off with you guys with a prelims parlay. These are 2 of the chalkiest fighters on this card in terms of their betting line, but I think it's an easy win. So I'll take the money. I'll parlay Yadier Del Val on the money line with Jocelyn Edwards on the money line. We'll get minus 160. I'm slapping 2 units on that because I just don't really see how either of these fighters lose this matchup. It looks like matchmakers are giving them a stepping stone kind of fight. Del Val is fighting Jordan Levitt, the Monkey King, a guy known for his lanky and awkward, tricky jiu-jitsu game, but that's what he's got. Del Val is a very good jiu-jitsu player himself. He's got the physicality advantage. He's got the kickboxing upside on the feet. And his last fight, he won in impressive fashion with a first-round submission, but his opponent was investigated for match fixing and subsequently cut from the UFC. Don't be down on Del Valle because his opponent might have been in a rigged fight. He needs a stepping stone kind of bounce back fight here. He looks really good. The 10-0 featherweight should get it done here. I like him to beat Levitt wherever the fight goes. And I'm pairing him with Jocelyn Edwards, who I have 2 plays on. Number 1, I'll pick her on the money line to round out this 2-legger. She's facing Nora Cornole in a women's bantamweight fight in the rematch that nobody asked for. The only reason I can see that matchmakers are making it is to give Edwards her rightful win back. Cornole beat her in a win that she did not deserve on a UFC Fight Night card in Paris a couple of years ago. Judges robbed Edwards blind in France. That ain't happening again. Edwards was better than her everywhere then. She's way better everywhere now. And she's only improved her grappling game. She's got a physical kickboxing game. I think she dominates this fight. So not only will I make her the second leg of the parlay here to close it out, I'm taking Jocelyn Edwards on the spread at -3.5. That means we need her to win a 30-27, at least from one judge, to cover that 3.5 combined rounds on the judges' scorecards. And like I said, I just think she's better everywhere. I think she gets that done. Speaking of 2 picks on one guy, how about some value here on my guy, Dan 50K Ige? New bonus structure, new nickname, 100 grand Dan now. I'm taking him on the money line at +180. And I also like him on the spread. I'll talk about that next. But he's fighting a surging guy in Melky Costa, who's coming off a head kick knockout win that we cashed on. I mean, I was thrilled and jacked up when he knocked out Morgan Charrier with that swift high kick. But I think that's inflating the betting line here. A lot of the time you see a guy coming off a highlight in the UFC, he's going to be a big favorite. This is the most experienced and tricky opponent he's faced yet. Costa taking on Ige, that is. Ige has never been stopped in his 29-fight pro career. And he's got that pressure boxing style that I think can pin Costa up against the fence and give him problems if he forces a boxing fight. Costa's extremely rangy with his kicks, with his long, straight punches, and that lanky frame he uses, really crafty in his jiu-jitsu game. But Ige, Ige's head coach, Eric Nixick, out of Extreme Couture MMA, one of my favorite coaches in the UFC, posted a video a couple weeks ago of Ige using the stance switching pressure to trap Costa against the fence, switch stances so you block his exit step, basically, and rip combinations to the head and body. And I'm visualizing that happening in the fight. I think that's exactly what's going to go down. Costa's also a guy that fades away, whereas Ige gets better as the fight keeps going. Ige's been out-wrestled, out-grappled in a couple fights, but styles make fights. This is a step down, and Costa's more of a jiu-jitsu guy. I think that Ige dictates the fight on boxing terms and gives him a lot of problems if he keeps it in close against the fence. And lastly, guys, so I'm taking him to win the fight at +180. And I also think that he can win a round at -160. Costa's a guy that's dropped the third round to multiple fighters in the UFC, whereas Ige wins the third round, even in 29-28 losses. So I like him there. And this is a bounce back spot, just fun to root for. Give me Jeff Hands of Steel Neal by knockout at -130. We're talking about level of competition. He's taking on Uros Medic, a guy that's very tricky, bouncy, kind of Soviet style, jumping in and out of the pocket, those loose arms, hand feinting, electric left straight down the middle and high kick. But Jeff Neal has fought a way higher level of competition. He's fighting the elites and killers of the division. And he recently admitted to having a drug and alcohol abuse problem. He's getting out in front of that now. I see that admission as a positive, him embracing the road to recovery and improvement. And he said that his preparation was compromised for the last few fights against Prates, against Ian Gary, Shavkat Rakhmonov. These are the best of the division. If he was competitive and looked good in compromised prep against those guys, I think he's knocking Medic out. He's a level above him. Look for a left straight right hook combo to put him down, and I'm fired up for UFC Houston. If you guys have questions on the main event, I'll be in the chat answering those as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of picks. I see Japan in there. I see Gipper's picks in there, dropping some knowledge there. Soccer, before we get to college basketball, Buckets, have you seen a lot of these soccer questions? Do you want to run down the list a little bit?
Yep, I'll do the rapid fire here for everyone. Michael Heimsath said, Buckets, we like Bilbao, Etche, and Mainz Hamburg over 2.5 goals. We like Mainz Hamburg a lot. Mainz's last 7 home matches ever since Urs Fischer has taken over has seen 6 of those 7 go over. Elche, I don't love betting La Liga overs. Elche did have like 6 hit in a row, but their last match against Osasuna saw them played to a 0-0, so it's kind of just hard to predict how they're playing right now because they're so hot or cold. So I'd stay off of that one. Excelsior, both teams to score has hit in 8 of their last 8. Fortuna in 6 of their last 8. Do we like both teams to score as well as the over? I'm already on the over, so I've got no problem adding the BTTS there as well. Bucket's thoughts on Mason Greenwood's over 1.5 shots on target. If Marseille are going to get 2 or 3 like I think they will, something's going to come from Greenwood, so I think that's a great shout at even money. Buckets, do you like Athletic Club Bilbao money line? That's, again, that Elche matchup. I do think they win. I just think it's going to be a bit cagier than people expect. I know that Martin, little spoiler here later on the show, is going to give out Athletic Club parlayed with under 4.5, so maybe a way to take that one. And then finally, Buckets, Aston Villa money line and Man City money line plus game over 2.5. After Arsenal just dropped points to Wolves over the weekend and kind of reopened this up to Man City, I would take Man City everything this weekend. I know Newcastle is good on the road, but take the over, take the money line, take any player prop you can find on Cherokee or Foden if they're starting. I'd be all over Man City this weekend.
Wow. What a pro. We go from pro to pro to pro. This is like an amazing show already. There's some golf questions. We're going to get to the golf questions in just a little bit, but we got to get to college basketball. Chip Patterson, you've got a couple of picks today. I actually have an opinion on one of these picks, which is interesting. Mike, especially when it comes to Purdue, Indiana, I'm sure people want your thoughts, but you don't only have a pick on Purdue, Indiana, Chip Patterson. You've also got a pick on this VCU St. Louis game. Talk to me.
Fired up for this one. So obviously St. Louis is reeling, right? They were double-digit favorite. They go into Rhode Island, and it was one of their worst performances, especially defensively, of the entire season. So you've got to make a decision as we're trying to handicap this game. Do you think that St. Louis comes back hair on fire, and this is a huge get-up-off-the-mat game? Well, I'll tell you what, I think this is a bad opponent for that get-up-off-the-mat game, because the VCU team that's coming in, when they had the game in Richmond, held St. Louis to its season low in terms of points with just 71. It was one of the worst performances in conference play in terms of St. Louis's offensive efficiency. And when you listen to Phil Martelli Jr. start to talk about how VCU has been playing some better basketball here in the month of February, he points to them settling in on the defensive end. He points to a lot of the effort that we saw start with what was ultimately, yes, a loss, but a performance against the Billikens that went pretty well. So I actually think that VCU is going to come into this game playing with a lot of confidence. I think the defensive improvements that we've seen over the last couple of weeks are going to help them be able to go in and just continue the frustration. Because when you've got these juggernaut teams, these teams that haven't lost a lot, sometimes it can be a little bit destabilizing. So do I think that St. Louis bounces back with a victory? Yeah, that would be my prediction. But at 8.5, I think that's far too many for a VCU team that is playing well and that I think should smell a little bit of blood in the water as St. Louis is reeling off the Rhode Island loss. Then, as you mentioned, Indiana, Purdue, another awesome game here on this Friday night. And buddy, this is straight from the Chipolytics vibes department. This is not a numbers-based handicap. This is spot, because the Purdue Boilermakers capital H, to come out breathing fire because the paint crew and everybody else in Mackey Arena gave them the setup that they needed with Michigan in town. Talking to people that they were there, here was the description. It was as loud as a jet engine at the start of the game. And what happened? Michigan absolutely ran through them. The Wolverines had a 20-point lead with about a minute and a half left in the first half. So before 20 minutes, I mean, you've just totally let down everybody in that arena. You've let down your fans. And if you are senior Braden Smith, if you are senior Fletcher Lawyer, if you are Trey Kaufman-Wren, with all of that basketball that you've played for this team, I just think that this has to be a game that you come out of the gates and you do not let that happen again with your second straight home game in a week. I'm not going to take a little cookie from Mike's cookie jar, but I know y'all have heard M Squared say a whole bunch of times, willing to pay to find out. This is me putting Purdue on the watch list, because if they don't come out just absolutely blitz, just on fire against, by the way, an Indiana team who's a rival, against, by the way, an Indiana team that beat you in Bloomington less than a month ago. There is no reason. If Purdue is anything like the team that we projected that they would be on paper, if I'm going to go into the Big Ten tournament, if I'm going to go into the NCAA tournament and have any kind of high expectations for Purdue to live up to what might be its on-paper expectations, I need to see some chest. I need to see some guts. I need to see them drop the hammer early on an Indiana team who, by the way, has just been sitting on their hands since last weekend. since was it Sunday? I think Indiana just gets absolutely run out of the building by Illinois. So maybe there's a little bit of rust at the beginning too, as they kind of get back into game speed, game shape. I'm sure Purdue wanted to play this game the day after losing to Michigan. Could not wait to get back on the floor. So if you want some numbers behind it, sure. Purdue's average first half margin of victory is about 7.2 points per game. All right, whatever. And even that is skewed by the Michigan loss. So I just think that Matt Painter, the senior leadership on this team, total vibes, gut check. They need to come out and they need to play hot, fast, early. So I'm going Purdue in the first half -6.
That was so good. We have so much going on in golf that I want to respond to, but Mike, the pick that I liked that Chip was giving out was Purdue first half -6. I feel like I understand Indiana has a couple, and Chip, maybe you covered this. They got a couple of nice little wins on their resume, including the win against Purdue, where they beat Wisconsin, right, by a point. I think they beat Wisconsin earlier in a few weeks back. Either way, I feel like this is a runaway for Purdue. Mike, does your model say anything on this 10.5?
It's right there. In terms of that, I've got an edge on the over in the game. At this point, I lean over, and some of that is Purdue having the ability to go kind of run it up. But I do think that we get a back and forth game largely, and I like the total over. I believe still sitting 149.5. I've got the number on that at 152.
Yeah, Lamar Wilkerson can go fill it up. He was like, Kylan Boswell put him in his pocket when they played. Lamar Wilkerson's like kind of the game-changing guard that ended up showing up at Indiana. Obviously, we looked at Tucker DeVries, given his own history, but to me, Lamar's been the player who can get you Indiana covers, who can get you this thing going over, and look, there's a reason why I'm not going to take the 10.5 or 11. Right? It's a big number to go and cover if Indiana's got the ability to be able to come in and make a game of this. I will say Indiana fouls a lot. It's not total Ole defense, but they're not disruptive. They're not going to get out that. Yeah. It's not total Ole defense, but they aren't getting a lot of steals, turnovers, blocks. So as long as Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith are hitting their shots, then Purdue should be able to do their part as well.
I'm going to call Purdue by 15. Chris Kish in the chat, otherwise known as Crispy Ska, says, hey, y'all remember TRL on MTV? I do. Was that Carson Daly? That was Carson Daly, right?
Yeah.
C officially needs his own show called FRL. He says that because we've got an interesting FRL situation. Now, I don't think we're going to hit it, but Aaron Rise on the final hole of round 1. He needs to bogey it. It's a par 4. He needs to bogey it for us to have a share of the first-round lead with Rory McIlroy, who was one of my 3 first-round leaders from round 1. My other 2 were Matt Fitzpatrick, who just had a birdie, but he's not going to catch the first-round lead. I will note that Wyndham Clark has closed the gap in our 3-ball to Marco Penge. He's -3 with Marco Penge being -4. They still have, I believe, 7 holes to play. Don't rule out Wyndham Clark. I'm just saying he was the one that was 75-1 as a first-round leader. If he gets hot over his last few holes, he could absolutely eclipse -5. But we do probably need Aaron Rai to bogey here to have a chance with Rory or a chance with Wyndham Clark. I know there's some golf questions in the chat. Danny, we'll probably have more soccer questions. Dan, I know there were some UFC comments that you wanted to address as well. Let me give out my golf matchup, as round 1 is starting to maybe close down. Still a lot of players with a handful of holes, though. Jason Day, -128 over Alex Noren. That's going to be my 3-ball matchup. I'm not going with a 3-ball. I'm going with a 3-ball matchup. We cashed one of these yesterday. It was kind of juicy. This one, not as much, but still kind of juicy. I don't really understand this number. Jason Day's experience here is great. He's coming in with very good form outside of a little spotty approach play last week. He's coming in with very good form. Alex Noren, I really don't think is a super great course fit here, especially with length being somewhat necessary. You look at Jason Day's experience at Riviera, you look at his play coming in. I honestly, believe it or not, I know this is juicy. I think this number should be higher. I would probably think this should be more like -140. I'll take Jason Day -128 over Alex Noren. And by the way, round 1, Jason Day's having a much better round 1 than Alex Noren as well. So that's playing in our favor. I will tell you that probably the last 2 times I've taken Jason Day in a round matchup, he has let me down. So maybe there's just something where I don't have a good read on Jason Day. But we'll see, because I really like this one. Jason Day -128 in a 3-ball matchup over Alex Noren. Before I get to some of the golf questions, and I'm sure we have some college basketball questions as well, Danny, I know you were having some conversations with Gippers in Japan and others that were UFC related. Anything for the audio listeners that they need to hear?
Yeah, I'm popping off in the chat right now. For the audio listeners, I mean, you got to know that Mike McClure puts out DFS simulations as well in the UFC that I'm always interested in hearing about, especially for a card like this, UFC Houston. I just checked the odds. 7 fights have over under 1.5 rounds listed, meaning odds makers are expecting first round finishes, second round finishes, which could be huge for your DFS lineups. Mike, you looking at anyone very, interesting to you for big scores?
Admittedly, I should be more prepared. That's the beauty of DFS versus betting. In the sports betting world, you're incentivized generally to move first and to be quick. And in DFS, you're incentivized to wait till the last second possible because the pricing is static. It is fixed. So more information, the better. So I personally have not done anything yet for DFS. That typically happens 1 to 2 hours before the fight card starts, mostly because I'm projecting what everyone else is going to do. The DFS game is more about what everyone else is going to do and less about what actually happens in the event.
So you just reserve up your lineups and then wait for news to come out. I mean, that also in terms of the betting lines in UFC, I talk about how erratic the movement is. Last week, we cashed on Mario Batista at -155. I bet him at -180. He closed -130 and dominated the fight, broke his opponent. So a lot of the time, you have to determine, is it noise or signal for the line movement? Sometimes there's information that says a fighter is compromised. He got injured in training camp. People are starting to leak out that kind of stuff. Then better beware. But a lot of the times it's just this line crank on perception of who's going to win the fight. And it has nothing to do with how the result plays out. So closing line value, not always value in the UFC. Wait for information, wait for weigh-ins. Mike's right about that. It makes a lot more sense to do so in that kind of sport.
All right, we've got some chat questions and comments. Josh Davis says, Florida State, Coastal Carolina, LSU, moneyline parlay, +107 in college baseball. Gipper's pick says Saras over 30.5 saves. If anyone wants to sweat something, starts in 10 minutes. It's -110. And Steve Folkert says Finland, Canada, under 5.5. Big Cheesy says Matt Fitzpatrick over Jason Day, round 2 matchup, -127. I'm obviously not going to take that because I like Jason Day, but I'm on Matt Fitzpatrick for this tournament. Mike, did you have something there?
Yeah, I had a question for you because I've gotten asked it a couple times in private here. I played Rory like you did. Would you consider playing Rory again or recommend it to anyone else? Say he's currently +355 to 370. Would you consider firing on Rory again based off the current state of the leaderboard?
That is a really good question. I mean, it's interesting when
the fact that we bet him without Scotty a little bit.
Yeah.
But Scotty sitting dead last on the leaderboard currently right now.
Yeah, and the trailers, like the pack that's trailing him is not like super great. I just wonder, Mike. I mean, I guess he could this. You could read this 2 different ways because I think he could have another great round 2 and really pull away, and that number becomes like +180. Or with it so bunched at the top, I mean, he could just have a decent round and a couple of guys could explode, and that number could potentially get longer. I mean, I don't know where you stand on that. I feel pretty comfortable with my 12-1 without Scotty in pocket. So I don't think I'd fire right now, but I don't hate it. How about you?
Yeah, I don't mind it. I'm considering sprinkling a little more and adding in. I will say that if he doesn't win at this point, I think who passes him will be in the playing group he's in. I think it'll be Morikawa or Fleetwood essentially catching up to him today and landing in the same pairing with them all weekend, essentially.
Well, I'm hoping that Matt Fitzpatrick gets involved as well, as he's 2 under. Chris Dorio says, "See, how do you feel about Cootie over Thigala, -130?" I lean that way. I think Pearson Cootie is just playing really, really good golf. I'm not going to bet that one. A little too much juice for that particular matchup, but I think you're on the right track. I don't have any issue betting that. Chip, there was a question about Michigan Duke tomorrow.
Ooh.
What do we have? It's a Michigan laying 2.5 at Cameron Indoor. Talk to me.
No, DC.
DC. I'm sorry.
Neutral
okay.
site. Yes, I do. I haven't seen what the number is, but my initial read on the game is that with the way that game is set up, with the motivations of John Shire and Dusty May, and with the collective length of both of these teams. I mean, one of the things that coaches will talk about is positional length. And obviously, Elliot Cadeau's a munchkin, right? Nobody's getting past that. But for the most part, you've got 2 teams that are going to be able to neutralize some of the size. I mean, Michigan's a little bit bigger, obviously, with Mara down low checking in at 7-2, but I'm looking at first half under in a very much like heavyweight bout, punchers feeling each other out. Again, I haven't seen what the half numbers are, but that's kind of the way I see this. In general, Duke has been a better second half team. Their offensive production is better after halftime. They've been known for some slow starts. You could say, hey, this is the Michigan game, but Michigan's also one of the best defensive teams around. So with the defensive excellence of both of these teams and with the positional length that we have for both of these teams, I'm probably going to go first half under, because here's the thing. Foul trouble is going to end up being one of those variables that's going to end up being very interesting. Patrick Gamba, you remember, as somebody who picked up 2 early fouls in the game against North Carolina. You take him off the lineup, it kind of changes what Duke can do in terms of their structure. You could say the same thing about Mara, who fouled out in the game against Purdue. So looking at the first half, looking at the way these two teams can neutralize each other, their defensive excellence, I think I will be looking at Michigan-Duke first half under. And I think in the other banger that we've got, that Arizona-Houston game, I think I'll be looking at the over. I know that Houston games, often we see, those low totals. And I don't know. I'm not, in general, I've seen the way that Houston has been carrying itself. They've got really, really good guards, and they're not afraid to get into their offensive sets and let it fire from 3. So I'll be looking at the over in that Arizona-Houston game, and I'll be looking at the first half under in Michigan and Duke.
Mike, on CBS Sports Network today at 12 o'clock, we're probably going to be addressing a couple of these games. Any commentary here on Michigan, Duke, or Arizona, Houston? By the way, Rye Bogey, John Lehrer, is updating the chat. So he is at 5 under. So we have Rory with the share of the first round lead. But here's the thing. There's a lot of golfers that are like 1 or 2 strokes behind that have plenty of holes to play. I mentioned Clark, but Siwoo Kim, obviously Marco Pench, who we're going against in that 3-ball. So we love the Rye Bogey. It brings Wyndham Clark in play, brings Rory in play. Obviously, we got to root against everybody else as far as the first round lead is concerned. Mike, talk to me about any of these college basketball games if you've looked at them.
Yes, Sia, I will talk about them on the network show for sure. Jam-packed schedule here today. I'm actually hopping on HQ during the A block, then joining you.
Yeah,
so we're going crazy there. But we're talking both of these games. I like Duke. I think Duke will win the game outright. I tend to agree with Chip on a first half under. The market is already on that, unfortunately. The total in the first half is down to 69.5. I was fully expecting to see 71.5. And so I still lean there, but 69.5 is a low first half number relative to what the full game is. So I'll probably stay off there, but I play Duke plus 2.5 currently. And then I am with Chip on the over. That 141.5, I have that closer to 147. I think that game can be tight and be competitive, but Arizona is going to supply the pace. And as Chip mentioned, Houston has the guard play to handle that pace and really succeed. So I like the over in Arizona and Houston.
All right. We have a question from Big Cheesy. C, do you like Cootie over Pendrith? Now that's different, lights out, from the other question, because I think the other question was Cootie over Thigala, I believe. I don't know the price there. I kind of like Pendrith. I liked Pendrith last week. He let me down a little bit. I think he was okay. I think Pendrith is a really good course fit. So I would probably stay away from fading Pendrith in this particular tournament. The whole game has to come around, but I don't think I'd isolate that. I really like Cootie over Thigala more than I like Cootie over Pendrith. Let's put it that way. Buckets, before we get to the recap screen, were there anything in the chat you needed to address?
I think we covered it, honestly. A lot of good footy questions, but good to go.
All right. How about you, Danny Brasco?
Well, I would be remiss to not mention that it's the Cricket World Cup right now, guys. I came into the chat on Tuesday, and my guy Farzad, who's one of my ride or dies, any sport he's riding with me, we cashed. I hope he tailed me on Nepal, who was plus 155 live. They dropped to plus 400. It was looking like it was over. Electric comeback from Nepal to beat Scotland. And now the group stages are ending. It's the knockout round. India is playing South Africa in a few days. They're only minus 250. Which means, like, normally see India, it's minus 3,000. I mean, these are going to be amazing matchups. Tune into the Cricket World Cup. I'll try to come with some plays. This is the best that it gets.
So what can we expect from you cricket-wise over the next, I don't know, a few months? Like, how's that going to work, if at all?
Well, I mean, it'll only be a couple more weeks because the tournament's already in the knockout stages. But I talk about live betting cricket all the time. The swings that are so insane. You can get a plus 500 dog that flips to minus 500 in the matter of 5 overs, which is like an inning of baseball essentially. So I really much prefer to live bet it. I'll do my best to come to the chat before the games in the morning. A lot of them kick off at like 8:30 a.m. So it won't always, run with the live show. But I'll do my best to try to bring some plays when I can pregame and cash some cricket bets because this is amazing, amazing gameplay right now.
All right. And finally, before we get to the recap screen, Mike, anything to add? I mean, so many people in the chat are into this Genesis Invitational. Anything to add? Any knowledge to drop? I know you asked the Rory McIlroy question, but we've got basically all of round 2 to go, some of round 1, and over the weekend. Any thoughts here?
Go back to the Pendrith stuff. I like Taylor Pendrith a little bit as well. He just profiles really well. Just, obviously Cootie's long off the tee is too. But what was interesting about Taylor Pendrith's round was we expect him to be one of the better players off the tee. He did it all with the putter. 3.5 strokes gained putting. He lost over a full stroke off the tee. He lost on approach, lost around the greens. He did it all putting. That's not likely to happen again, but it's nice that he has the confidence with the putter. If he has just an average round for his skill set off the tee, he would currently be 4 under, potentially 5 under, right there with Rory. I would be interested in backing Taylor Pendrith going forward.
Yeah, and I will say if he has some ball striking and off the tee problems today as well for the entire day, maybe you look to fade him in round 3. Maybe it's just not there for him. But for now, I think it's good to maybe invest a little bit on Pendrith being decent today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to the recap screen and finally get everybody out of here. We just had so much to talk about today. 3-ball matchup, Jason Day minus 128 over Alex Norton. Of course, I have my Wyndham Clark bet pending as well. And don't forget, I have my Matt Fitzpatrick top 20 at plus 105 bet from earlier in the week. So we'll see all of those on the recap screen. Buckets, do this for me.
We've got Stade Brest taking on Marseille. Marseille over 1.5 team total. Fortuna Sittard taking on Excelsior, over 2.5 goals in that match. And tomorrow night, LAFC versus Inter Miami. LAFC over 1.5 team total.
Don't forget, Buckets is joining me at 12 o'clock with Martin Green on CBS Sports Network. Colin Morikawa, round 2, under 69.5. Even money for Mike McClure, who will also be joining me to talk golf and other things on the network show. Chip Patterson likes VCU plus 8.5, minus 115. And Purdue, first half, -6, minus 110. And from what I saw, the chat really likes Purdue to cover the spread in that one as well. Danny Brasco, help me out here.
We got a prelims parlay to kick off the UFC Houston card. Yadier Del Val money line plus Jocelyn Edwards minus 160. Jocelyn Edwards on the spread as well, minus 3.5 at minus 120. And we got 100 grand Dan Ige plus 180 and on the spread at plus 3.5, minus 160. And Jeff Hands of Steel Neal by knockout, minus 130.
All right, Scott Snead giving us the update that Penge just birdied 12. Okay, that's getting interesting from a first-round lead perspective. Certainly doesn't help our 3-ball. Kyle Filipowski over 8.5 rebounds, minus 114. That one courtesy of Prop Bet Guy. What a show. Thank you, Ben, on the 1s and 2s and 6s and 7s for helping us out. We got Danny Brasco. We got Mike McClure. We got John Eimer Buckets. We got Chip Patterson. John Eimer Buckets. John Buckets Eimer, I guess. It doesn't matter. Buckets, Farzad.
Buckets, Eimer!
Thank you, Ian. Yeah. Thank you, Ian.
Farzad says, ride or die all the way. There's so many people here who are just part of this show every single day, whether they're listening or watching us live. Either way, we really appreciate everybody consuming this content every day. We hope we help your day. But he says, Farzad wants to close the show. He says, you know the law. So, ladies and gentlemen, that will do it, or will it? Buckets, you want to close the show? Mm-mm. Chip, you want to close the show?
You know the law. Subscribe.
We rest our case.